All right. You're up, Max. If you want to introduce yourself.
Okay, just trying to share my screen. So, hi everyone, I am Max, Maxime, if you prefer in French. However, in Mexico, where I am living and working, everyone uses Max, which is easier. And I have launched a venture studio 5 years ago in Mexico, an impact venture studio, if you want to be precise, and I hope to share some of it today. If I manage to share my screen, which I'm not used to because I am a Google guy, so Zoom is new for me. Do you see my screen? No.
Yeah, we see your browser, Firefox.
That is great. So that's a great news. Okay, guys.
There we go.
Okay,
That looks
so
great.
Uh, please interrupt me. I'm going to try to be as executive as I can, 15 minutes. So as I said, I'm Max. I'm a co-founder of Fundamental, which is a venture studio building impact ventures in Latin America. So mainly Mexico, Colombia, and Guatemala. Um, from what I understand, everyone knows what is a venture studio here, but I would like to dive into the way that we have built this model and how we do it. So Fundamental is a venture studio building impact startups for people to thrive in Latin America and not just survive. So our tagline is a convoluted way of saying that we want to create social mobility in Latin America through technology, through uh, what we call aggregation business models, and of course, we have some impact and business metrics that we track every year. So you have some of the team on the right-hand side of the slide. We like to do some hikes in Mexico City every time we can. And down there, you see some of the ventures that we've created from scratch. Actually, there's a few missing in terms of logos. Um, I don't know if anyone has any doubts on how a venture studio works. Basically, we try to address the main challenges of an entrepreneur when he or she tries to launch a new startup. No, so you have really common problems on the left. So people maybe sometimes, as we say in Mexico, marry with an idea. So, I would love to do that. Do this solution. Let's go. How you know it's not enough to guarantee the success of a venture. So the ideation and the validation processes are sometimes overlooked. And what we are trying to do is someone is writing. And okay, please, Taylor, let me know if there is ah, okay, if there is any questions. So what we do is trying to address the, I would say, most common problems of an entrepreneur trying to launch a company. So some methodology problems, some funding that is lacking sometimes, especially in early stages, and even more in the social impact sector. No one wants to be the first crazy person to bet on a social company. So we're trying to de-risk, as we're going to see, those investments. And the core of the venture studio model at the heart of this slide is the trying to connect an entrepreneur, an idea, and funding with some shared resources that allow the entrepreneur to go faster and to do it with less risk. And for those who are not familiar with it, we are different from an accelerator, different from a venture capital fund, different from an incubator, and all kinds of other models that exist in this space. I would say mainly because we work from day one, or maybe from day -1, we could say, because we enter before there is a company, we enter when there is an idea, as we're going to see, and we remain active with the founder until the scaling stage. As we are going to see, it takes 2 years, more or less. Venture studios, in terms of investments, I think it's important to mention down right on the slide that it's a proven model, no, for investors in terms of value creation and financial value. Venture studios have higher success rates than a solo entrepreneur or than a venture going through an accelerator. Um, every venture studio, as you're going to see, has a different model design. But what we do in general is 50-50 in terms of equity split with the founder, 50% for the studio, 50% for the founder. And then we start from here and we see if we, for instance, transfer more equity to the founder once he or she finishes the process. And also the venture studio has a benefit of agility, you could say. We try to bring the company to product market fit in less than 24 months, when the average in the sector would be more 50 months, 60 months sometimes. Okay, advancing. I'm not going to take too much of your time on this. I think the few things that are important. One, we create one new startup every year, at least, sometimes two. Two, we have some shared talents and experts that are really working every day with the ventures that we are co-creating. So we have business design, product and tech. We have financial, legal, we have go-to-market. Hi, Josh. We have fundraising also, which is a really important aspect of what a venture studio provides, help on the fundraising aspects, because as I mentioned earlier, most entrepreneurs are struggling to be supermen or superwomen who know how to do everything. So we are more trying to help them be Iron Men and Iron Women. Sorry for the superhero reference, but I think in general it helps people understand. So you don't have to be a superhero; you just have to be someone with the right vision, and we provide the right technology and the right support for you to be growing.
Max, I think the superhero
Sorry.
connection is great, but you mixed
Okay.
DC and Marvel, and I think that's where you went
Yeah,
wrong.
I'm not an expert. Sorry for the fans on one or the other. I'm trying to preach to all religions here, so that's why I
I'm
took.
I'm gonna hold back on that gaff right there because that's a big one for me.
Yeah, no, that hurts exactly. But you understood the idea, no? You don't need to be someone with all the powers. Obviously, you can be a normal human, and we will help you. And another aspect that if some of you are trying to launch a venture studio, we could share with you some of the frameworks that we used 5 years ago when we decided to define what we're going to do and not do the studio. So you can see that you have to choose. Sometimes it's really okay. Do I want to go with one vertical, with many verticals? Do I want to do some one company per year or 10 companies per year? Do I want to have a lot of control, a little control compared to the entrepreneur? Do I want to invest my own money in each startup, or am I going to raise money from other funders to support the first phases of the venture? So, as you can see, every decision shapes a specific type of studio. So for us, a few highlights: one venture per year, so which really speaks about the investment that you're going to make in terms of time, of resources in each venture. How much money are we going to put into each company? In general, we put between $500,000 up to 1 million over a 2 year period, depending on the type of model and type of funding that is needed, etc., etc. Sorry, I want to advance because I want to show you an example then of a company that we've been building last year. And this is the process that we use. It's a quite standard. We're going to say that it's a proprietary, unique process. However, it's a quite standard venture building process. So there's an exploration, ideation, and validation. Then you have the phase of operation that's in the middle, 18 to 24 months, which is the core really of the work of the venture studio. And then we proceed to the spin-out and scaling phase. So it's quite standard, but there are some. The devil is in the details, as we say. So it's not as easy as it seems to make it work. I don't know if there's any question up until now, because now I want to dive into the process that we've done in the last year.
One question I have for you, Max, on the funding that you put in, is
Mm-hmm.
that after the 50-50 split with the inventor or the founder?
Okay, great question. No, it's before. So when we start working on the solution, we say, okay, we start 50-50. The entrepreneur brings his or her energy, vision, experience, track record. And what we do is bringing shared resources and also initial funding. So the funding is here from the start. And hopefully, after the end of phase 3, when we start the spin-out phase, we go and look for other investors, other funders that come and complement, we could say, the cap table. I don't know if it answers your question.
It does. It sounds like that funding is part of the 50% that the
Yes,
studio is getting.
exactly. It's part of the value that we bring at first. Not only that, but it's an important part of the value plan.
Great, thank you.
Okay, great. Um, so entering the case study, so it's gonna look, maybe it's gonna be quite simple and obvious for you. So please, sorry in advance. But obviously, you have to start from something, and we call our studio fundamental because we want to address the fundamental development issues of Latin America through entrepreneurship and through technology. So when we say something that's fundamental for us, it would be uh, social mobility problem in general. No, how do we make people, as I told you at the beginning, more economically safe, socially integrated, resilient, facing the climate crisis, for instance. Those are fundamental challenges that we address. And so we always start with a sector that's overlooked, underappreciated by existing tech, by existing solutions, and where we see a lot of social impact potential. So in this case, last year we decided to enter the construction sector, saying, okay, how can we provide innovative solutions for tradesmen, tradeswomen, small businesses in the construction sector? I'm not going to enter into details the why we chose the construction sector, but the intentionality was how can we leverage this sector, which is, as you're going to see, an informal sector, quite unequal sector. How can we leverage this sector to create new jobs and to create social mobility? That's the starting point, we could say, of our work. Then it's a quite standard market analysis where we try to understand what are the shortcomings that exist in this market at the moment, what are the impact opportunities that we see in the market. I put here some insights. There's way more. There may be 100 pages of research, but if we had to sum it up, we would say there's a lot of informality. So if this is the Mexico example, no, but 80% of the sector is informal. So that's, for us, is a great opportunity. How can we leverage this informality? How can we create more formality? How can we reduce the inequality between the formal and the informal workers? So all those questions start to come up. There's a problem of dignity. People are working but living below minimum wage, even when they're formal. And of course, there's a problem of productivity. So I don't want to enter into detail, but just to explain to you the different steps of our working process. Once you've understood the market, we understand the value chain also. You guys are all familiar with the framework of the value chain. We try to understand who's creating value in this sector, who's capturing the value, who's maybe creating value for the other actors of the chain. So there's a lot of questions here. And in particular, this sector was quite complex in Mexico because you have small actors, big actors, a lot of actors in the middle. It's really important to map this value chain because that's how you understand the spaces of opportunity that exists. The bottlenecks, for instance, the oligopoly or the monopolies that exist. That's for the understanding, I could say. And once you've understood, it's quite important to put yourself in the shoes of the user. Again, I'm preaching, I'm sure people that are already convinced, but you have to understand the users, that his or her reality, problems, and careful because the slide is going to get more complex, but trying to map the different solutions that already exist in the markets. And not only in the market, in the world. We've been analyzing what's happening in Southeast Asia, in Eastern Africa, in some areas of Eastern Europe, for instance. We try to map the different business models and solutions that could solve one of the user problems. So I'm not going to enter into detail here, but we have a lot of information on this, different types of models. Okay, so in the construction sector, you can imagine marketplace models to reach clients. You can imagine funding. You can imagine software. You can imagine a lot of stuff. That's the step 3. Step 4, we prioritize based the solutions, the business models that we've identified based on our own success factors. Everyone has its own success factors. For us, we want to create impact for vulnerable people. We want to monetize it. We want to find investors in the future that could join and help the company scale. We want to have a clear idea of the initial go-to-market that we want to implement, and we want to have an unfair advantage. That's everyone, I'm sure. Long story short, once we have those solutions in our head, just to remind you, we don't have an entrepreneur yet. We're just working internally as a studio, trying to analyze and identify where we're going to go and prioritizing some business models that make sense for us. And then we go and look for the entrepreneurs. That's the fun part, because now we say, okay, we want to solve this problem. We want to build this kind of solution. Let's look for someone who wants to build with us. And that's where the question that was asked to me just before makes some sense. We offer a deal, no? We do a public call for founders. Hey guys, we're going to offer you ABC. We're going to offer you money, support, network, and you guys need to bring ABC. We had a lot of entrepreneurs submitting one of their ideas, idea stage again. And after a painful and chaotic process, we find our partners. In this case, Sebastian and Alejandro, some exits, some successes, some failures also. We love failures as entrepreneurs because I think we learn a lot from it. And once we find those entrepreneurs, we go and create the company with them. And so this is andamio, which means scaffold, I think, in English. So the thing that is used to build the buildings, or the structure that is used to build the buildings. And so we are right now, we have launched the company. So the process I showed you took at least 6 to 8 months in total from the first step. I think you can make it shorter, especially if you're not focused on impact, social impact. I think you can go faster. However, for us, we had to look at a lot of different aspects of the problem. And we've launched Andamio formally in November. And we are now working with our first clients, first users, with a fintech solution that provides liquidity to small businesses in this sector. I think I'm going to stop here. Guys, I don't know. I think I felt quite good in terms of timing, but I want to leave some space for discussion, questions, and if I need to deep dive into something, please let me know. Thank you for your time.
Max, that was amazing. You had us drinking from a fire hose, so thank you. That was incredible.
No, I need to know if someone understood something, if it gave you some ideas for your own companies. Taylor, I know that you're familiar with the venture studio model. What did you also believe? What did you think of what I showed you?
I loved it. Fantastic framework, and yes, I'd love to open up the discussion for some Q&A from the group here. So if you've got some questions or comments, please put them in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and see if we're able to do that without talking over each other.
Taylor, maybe I can start with the question that you wrote during the presentation that I just see now.
Yeah, I answered. Go ahead.
No, because I think it's a two-step process, because we put the money at first, and then when the company is ready to scale, we do a formal round of investment where other investors get in the cap table. And sometimes, if we believe there is some money to make, we can put some more money, in this later stage of the venture building process. It's not compulsory. It's not something that we guarantee to the founder, but we can do it.
That's awesome. Amina, I see your hand up. Before we jump to your question, Max, can you just clarify one thing? How do you value the company when you make your investment at that early stage?
Yeah, at the start of the idea and when we launch the company, the value is wet finger, as we say in French. So there's really, we do some benchmarks, we try to compare with other funding rounds, but there's always a huge margin of error. No? Then at the end of the venture building process, when other investors, VC funds, for instance, enter, well, here there is a price round that it's going to be a negotiation. Also, when we start, okay, it's going to be 4 million, and the investor say, no, I think it's more like three. And so maybe 3.5. But it's always kind of a negotiation. No?
Awesome. Thank you for the clarification there. Amina, do you want to come off mute and ask your question, and then Joel?
One of them's very basic, and that is, what Max is describing here. Is it the same as Summit Venture Studios, or is this a different organization? That's part one of my question. Could you clarify that?
Different organizations, yes.
Okay, but very similar.
Yes, both venture studios, and what Max described is, I would say, similar to the process that we go through at our studio, just with a different focus on where we get our deals and ideas. So we're focused on bringing IP out of universities versus starting things in-house.
Right. Okay. Got it. Okay. Well, I think that actually clears it up. So thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Anina.
This is fascinating. Is there a model in America similar to what you're doing that appeals to the trades and kind of my passion, rural? Because this is different than Akiva. This is different than self-reliance. And it's a venture studio approach that approaches SMBs in a way that's different. But do you know of anyone that's doing something similar in the US?
Taylor, I have my doubts if venture studios are actively targeting SMBs as a user. From what I saw, we are the ones doing it. However, I'm not familiar with everything that's happening in the US, but it's quite specific. Joel, to answer your question, in general, venture studios focus really on software. Most of them focus on software. How can we build software in a repeated, standardized way? There's a little venture studios working on social impact and small businesses. I don't know any, but Taylor maybe can make me wrong.
Well, no, I would just provide maybe some place to look, Joel. So I just got back from a conference and met with the group from 9.8 Collective, as well as the Venture Studio Forum, and both of them have done a lot of research into other studios and what's out there. So this group, particularly 9.8 Collective, does venture studio building for universities, and then they've also created the Venture Studio Forum, which I think there's a fair amount of studios registered as members there that you could look through.
Awesome. Thank you.
And also, Josh, I would add, just put it in the chat, we are part of a network, a worldwide network called Global Venture Network. They aggregate many venture studios, accelerator models, and so they have a map. And if you guys are interested, you can see the different types of studios that exist. It's quite diverse.
Yeah. Max, do you have any suggestions on how people in this room could approach venture studios, or what you would suggest the best way for an entrepreneur to engage with a venture studio?
Of course. So from what I understand, it's mainly entrepreneurs here. The first thing I will recommend is connect with venture studios because, as I mentioned, we are doing call for founders. However, we are always in an ongoing exploration process. I did not mention it, sorry, but we have three verticals. We have a vertical of employability. So how can we help small businesses get better jobs? We have a vertical around agriculture and a vertical around, we could say, circular economy. And so if you identify the verticals of Venture Studio, you can be sure that inside the studio, they're always looking for the next venture, doing exploration. So what I would advise is get in contact, get in touch with them, because even if there's nothing published, like we're looking for entrepreneur AB, it's highly probable that they are thinking about their next venture. And for my recommendation would be, if they already know you, it's quite probable that when they are ready to launch, when they have some funds, when they have the timing right, they will reach out to you and say, okay, are you interested in building with us? So that would be for me the first advice. And then the second one, and then I think I have the questions of Dom in the chat. But the second advice, sorry, would be a venture studio is not a fund, is not an accelerator. So if you want to build with a venture studio, you need to see them as a co-founder. If you see them as a resource provider, I'm not sure it's going to make sense because we are ready to put everything on the line for the venture, but we want to have a relation of trust and of equals with the entrepreneur. That's why we started a 50-50 equity split. And I did not enter into this detail, but when we finish the venture building process, the venture studio transfers more equity to the entrepreneur. So that would be my two advices: reach out. And secondly, really just go with them if you're looking for a co-founder, not if you're looking for an investor.
Dom, did that answer all of your questions there? I see several questions.
So, Dom, sorry, I just see your questions. So every venture studio is going to be different. Some are really going to say, okay, just propose your idea and we will decide if we invest or not. We are more control freaks, so we really decide on the problem we want to solve or the type of model that we are willing to build. So we would say that we only evaluate, more than ventures, we evaluate entrepreneurs. Okay, have you already built something in this space? Have you built a business model that's similar to the thing we want to build? We evaluate more the track record and the ambition, the vision of the entrepreneur, and not necessarily the venture. We have a lot of solicitations random. Hey, I built this company. Can you invest? We say, sorry, guys, we want to enter at day -1, or if it's already launched and working, we don't feel like we are bringing enough value to the company. So that's for the first question.
Well, sorry.
Sorry. Sorry,
Yeah,
no, please.
I just wanted to add with the third question. You spoke about the workforce that you are trying to support. Does that affect the timeline because you want to get things started as soon as possible? And also, it sounds like you are an early starter because you are with the founder. So that's good. And then you're going to help with further funding with ventures. So that's great. But then that's early. But in terms of your interest in accelerating this, is there a timeline to get that workforce going and all that?
It's a great question because the timeline question is always a debate, even internally with my partners. I would tell you that every startup needs its own timeline to start generating impact. For instance, if you go into the agriculture sector, you're not going to transition a farmer into regenerative agriculture in 2 months and see results in 2 months, obviously. So when you start a venture, you need to be really clear with your partners on what the expected goal, success looks like. Because if you're not aligned at the beginning, I can be sure that there's going to be problems at some point. In the specific construction sector, we have defined quite a short timeline for success because we're talking about fintech here. So the product is already built. So now it's a lot about distribution. It's a lot about risk management and risk assessment. So we want to create impact in the first 6 months, that's for sure. And we have to define impact. For us, impact in this specific topic will be how many small businesses are accessing a credit for the first time, and as a result of this access, are managing to grow their business monthly, on a monthly basis. So we have a really specific criteria of impact in this topic. But sometimes it's going to take more time. As I mentioned, for the agriculture sector, it's a 2-year timeline because you know that if you want to implement a new crop, a new way of doing things, it's going to take some time that you cannot compress before seeing strong results in terms of job creation, of social mobility. I don't know, Dom, was it your...
No, that really helped. Thank you. That gives a great idea in terms of the timeline and your expectations. It sounds like you are open to longer development.
Yes.
Well, in terms of development, you said a lot of the development would already be done, but there's kind of a two-part thing there. A lot of it still has to be done, perhaps. So maybe that's the 2 year. Maybe that's the 2-year project.
No, you're completely right. I said it's already built. Maybe I was too optimistic. No, what's built is the technology. The technology is there. We have a first MVP that's working, functional, and that allows a user, so a small business, a small, how do you call that, electrician, for instance, to solicitate a credit through his phone, through WhatsApp, for instance. There is an automated risk model behind it, and the user gets the answer I think at the moment it's in the 12 hours, and it's fully automated. So that's why I say it's already built. However, as you mentioned, I have this quote of Mike Tyson that I know everyone's going to plan until they get punched in the face. It's the same for us. We have this plan, but I'm sure that everything is going to change in the following month. And to answer your first question, Dom, I think, and that's for everyone, at the end, if you want to create impact, sometimes it takes time. Good things take time. Important things take time. And if you're just going to build software, it can be fast. However, if you want to make vulnerable communities, such as informal agricultures in really remote areas, informal contractors in the construction sector. We have also a venture for beauty salons, women-owned beauty salons in Guatemala. If you want those users to trust you, to start adopting a new technology, this takes time. There's no secret. So always be mindful of this. Depending on the sector and the user, you have to accept that things take time to build.
Max, thank you so much. I totally agree there. Thank you for your time. We're past our time for today, but that's
Sorry.
okay. If you are you able to share your contact information or how people could get a hold of you if they'd like to continue the conversation?
Of course. So I'm going to write my info in the chat. Please, Taylor, feel free to share it with everyone. So that's my address, my LinkedIn. I'm going to share the link.
Awesome.
And I'm going to put my WhatsApp too. So please don't hesitate. In Latin America, we use WhatsApp too much for every aspect of our lives. So don't hesitate to write to me via WhatsApp. Where is it?
Awesome. Well, really appreciate it, Max. This has been an amazing education, and we can share out your contact with with the group as well. I think did you already send your presentation that we could share with the group?
Not yet. Not yet. I'm really bad at sending things before, so I will share it now.
Okay, if you can share that with Hannah, and if you're okay with us sharing that with this group, that would be great.
Of course. No,
Awesome.
please,
Okay.
don't hesitate. Thank you, everyone. I hope it was of any help for you and ready to share everything, all the errors that we've made. Please, really.
Awesome. Thanks, Max. Thanks all for coming, and we'll see you next week, same time. Really appreciate it. We'll see you.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye.